We're here tonight with Alicia Bay Laurel for the movie premiere, Being of the Sun. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Happy Equinox.
Thank you. Wow, nice to, wow, look at all of those ukuleles. I didn't know you had so many of those. What a fabulous collection.
That is Dad's collection there. Yep. Good evening, everyone. We're kind of curious to see who has seen the movie already, or at least seen the trailer.
The trailer.
Okay,
Trailer.
good.
Not yet.
And
hey, Renee. Hello.
Hi.
Long
Good
time
to see you.
I know. Wow. Is it already chilly in Vermont?
It's a little chilly, but it's beautiful outside. It's kind of a hazy moon and it's 60 degrees.
Ugh.
I hear that's the low, so that's not cold for this time of year.
There's Karen Sagawa. Hello, Karen.
Hey.
Nice background you got.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, sorry. I'm like sliding in after getting back from San Jose. So
wow, you're just in time. I haven't yet started to play.
cool.
I'm gonna sing the Autumn Equinox song from Being of the Sun. Once again the night is equal to the light on the autumn side of the sun.
I dropped off.
We have gathered to make light for the darkness approach.
I don't know what's happening.
Thank you for the bounty of the summer. Thank you for the fullness of the harvest. Can everybody hear?
yes, yeah.
Once again the night is equal to the light on the autumn side of the sun. We have gathered to make light for the darkness approaches. Thank you for the bounty of the summer. Thank you for the fullness of the harvest. Blessed Mabon. Oh, I can't hear you.
Thank you, everybody. I muted you. You can unmute. Thank you for the beautiful chant.
Unmute. Okay.
So before I go any further, I just want to mention that there are these two books. This one's still actually at the printer. This is a sample. And this one was published last February, but neither of them could have happened without Karen Sagawa, who is here. Karen Sagawa is my digital design guru, and she coached me over Zoom for months on end. She collaborated with me in making the two book trailers that were made for these two. And she collaborated with me on the poster for the movie, and probably various other things too. But I just have had such a good time working with Karen. She's an expert. At the same time, she's like really mellow and easy to work with, and it's just been a blast. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Happy to help with like a lot of different parts of it. So
Karen, is there a way for other people to get a hold of you for sharing your expertise? Are you available for consultations?
yeah, I think what I can do is I can put in the chat is I'll put in both my website and my email.
Perfect.
It's like probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. Right now things are like a little crazy because I was out of town for a couple days. I actually just got back in town today. So I sometimes have like a bucket load of emails to respond to. Just like a little background. So like with Alicia, I do mostly like Photoshop and kind of web development support. I'm almost like a graphic designer and web developer by trade, and also an artist. So that gives me just like a little
Yes,
like background, mostly to like if any of you are creatives, to just kind of like support you in that realm and make sure like your vision or whatever you're working on is like true to how you want it, but just with some like technical
yes. Making sure the file sizes are correct and everything like that.
Yeah, and just like basically everything goes the way you want it. Any like print knowledge or web dev knowledge, happy to help. But yeah, either email, my website, you can contact me through there, but that's mostly if you guys like are looking kind of what I do. There's some commercial stuff on there and some more like personal stuff on there. So you guys are welcome to let me know and like send me an email if you guys need anything. So
Great, thank you.
When I first met Karen, I got the full frontal assault because we both had pieces in the same group art exhibition in Osaka, Japan. And what she made that was just so shocking and memorable was a hand silk screened kimono with the schematic for the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant printed on it. It was an object of astonishment for me. And then afterwards, she made a beautiful catalog for the show. And she had catalogs from other shows. And it was really quite an amazing show just in itself. It was about water, that was the theme. But her, you know, I got to see right off, you know, how beautiful her art was, and at the same time, how beautiful her graphic design was.
Mm-hmm.
And this catalog was really quite dazzling.
It's always a special treasure when the artists get a catalog from a gallery show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I can play a little bit. I was thinking, Alicia, I could also open up my Venmo account and just click a snippet from the movie that nobody has seen and let it run for 4 minutes right wherever, you know, wherever I pick it.
Okay.
And what happens. That might be something different so that the people who have seen the trailer don't see it again.
Okay.
Down. And then I have the book trailers too.
And then I heard through my agent that they were.
Okay, so that
is the clip.
The trailer.
Yep. It wants to do stuff weird for me sometimes, so sorry. I'm just learning this. I need to go to my watch. All right, so while we're going to, while I'm figuring that out, I'm sure some people have some questions, and now would be a good time. Is there anybody that has any questions?
Well, one thing that I can do is I can share with you some stories that didn't end up in this particular version of the show. Because the way I do the way I did this show, and I did, I don't know, maybe 100 performances of it between 2000 and 2016 when this one was filmed. There were like many, many stories, and there were many songs, and kind of depending on how I was interacting with my audience, I just kind of spontaneously chose a song or a story to tell next. So if you saw the show twice, you might not see the same stuff. There were a few stories that seemed to show up in just about every performance. Like the one where I went to this television show and took mescaline. Before I went on the David Frost show, I was like, we had just gone through a rather traumatizing event at Wheeler Ranch, which was I'd thrown this humongous party to celebrate the publication of my book, and there were 800 hippies there from communes all over California, and we were all having a fantastic time for 3 days. And then a week later, the cops came. I'm glad they didn't come to the party, but you know, they came a week later with helicopters and guns with bayonets and all kinds of nastiness, and they were running all over the place. They claimed that there were some people that had escaped from San Quentin that were hiding out at Wheeler's, which I think was a lie, although I really wouldn't know, because if they looked like freaks, I would have just assumed that's what they were. Anyway, after there was this big raid on the land, I thought, why are these people coming here with all these weapons? I mean, what did they think we were going to do to them? You know, we were unarmed, mostly unclothed, and we certainly weren't going to attack them. Besides, they came before dawn, so how were we going to attack them? We were in bed. And so afterwards, I thought, why aren't there any hippies in the media that people can see and understand that we are all about peace and love? So when Random House asked me to come to New York City and do a promotional tour for Living on the Earth, I went. But when I went, I didn't really think that clearly about how I should act. I'd never been on television before. It wasn't really something that I had thought about or had been groomed for in any way. And I thought, what I want to do is I want to embody the cosmic knowledge and beauty of the hippie people. So I thought, well, maybe I should take some mescaline. And that story.
Oh, God.
That story seems to have shown up in every single show that I did, because actually, just as you chuckled, it's such a preposterous idea. And I was 21 years old. It didn't occur to me that it was preposterous at all until I was on a talk show and I couldn't talk.
Oh, dear.
I just laughed and I rolled my eyes and I shook my head and I played a song. And that was what I did while I was there. You have a cut you want to play?
Yes, I did find what I wanted to play.
Okay.
So I have to share screen now. Hold on. I think I'll start with the Living on the Sun book. It wants to play automatically. It won't give me a chance to pause it and then come back and start the share screen and all that stuff. I apologize.
It's okay.
You should be able to talk over it if you want to.
Ooh. Mm. Mm. Mm.
That was great.
That was very lovely.
That was very compelling. I liked that.
Thank you.
Really took me back. Yeah.
It's one of the few recordings I've ever done that was entirely improvised, but I wasn't in a recording studio when Ramón and I recorded the two, well, all of the things that are on the album, Songs from Being of the Sun. We were camped out in the teachers' quarters of the Indra Devi ashram near Tecate in Baja California. And we were the only ones there. And he brought his Sony reel-to-reel tape recorder, and so he was taping us. Every day we do a couple of songs, and we finally had this whole album. And but after our book was published, and it was roundly smashed in the media as being a terrible book, and I don't know, it was kind of hard for us. And at the same time, in Japan, they were crazy about this book. They had just published it and they loved it. And it was interesting to me, like, why did Americans not like this book? And why was it that Japanese people loved this book? And it took me a while to understand. It was because in America, we're descended from the whole European thing, which was when the Christians came, they killed off or converted all the pagans, all of the people who were into animistic nature worship religions. But in Japan, where Shinto had been, you know, the dominant spiritual form for a while, when the Buddhists came, the Buddhists didn't kill off the Shintos. In fact, they were the same people. And you often find a Shinto shrine right on the grounds of a Buddhist temple, because most people both. They get married in a Shinto wedding and they have a Buddhist funeral. That's just normal in Japan. So it was okay to have a nature worship book. In fact, they loved it. And so it took me a while to figure that one out, but the book is still published in its Japanese translation, and it's possible it's going to come out in Spanish. We got started on the Spanish one, and then my Spanish publisher had kind of a breakdown and couldn't go any further. And now that I've tried to letter the French translation of Living on the Earth, I can understand why. It's like 200 pages of hand lettering in another language, especially going from English to a Latin language, which takes up like maybe 125% of the space of English lettering. Wow, you know, I really badly injured my right arm and shoulder trying to get that in by deadline. And finally, I just had to beg off and say, give me another year, please. And at the same time that happened, just magically, Felicia Trujillo, who is here, just sort of hopped into my life. She just sent me an email and she said, I was working at your publishers when the first edition of Living on the Earth came out. How amazing is that? But she was. And then we got to talking, and it turned out she is a Feldenkrais healer and a naturopath. And it was kind of like I said, well, thank you, universe. Here's my doctor that I can't go see because I'm, in pandemic lockdown. And so I've been working with Felicia now for what, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, something like that. And I'm sitting here at my desk with my feet flat on the floor. And I'm resting on my sits bones, and my right arm does not hurt. So thank you for that. Thank you so much.
You're a brilliant student, and you do your moves.
I do my moves, even if it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I do them before I go to sleep. Yeah,
I'm so glad.
Yeah, pain is not conducive to creativity sometimes. I did pull out the a part of the movie. Like I said, I just kind of randomly picked a section, so I might move it forwards and backwards as we get started, just in case I start in the middle of a story.
Okay.
I have that. share.
All right.
To that $8,000, it was more like suddenly being 20 years old and having $80,000. The garden can heal you.
Sorry.
He said, you're not going to find anything here. We knew you were coming, and I cleaned my house yesterday.
That was the bust.
So out of his pocket, he pulls a joint. He says, what about this? And I said, you just pulled that out of your pocket, and I have a witness. And my San Quentin prison guard went, what was the guy's name? Paul. Anyway, Stefani. Paul Stefani, right. Paul Stefani was not happy, but he stomped out of there. I didn't see him again, but he did arrest some other people, including some poor guy that didn't hear about the raid at all. And he was going out to brush his teeth with baking soda, and he got taken in for possession of heroin. Now, excuse me, but hippies living in a tent, this much heroin, you know how much that costs? So of course, being the girl with the $8,000, I bailed everybody out of jail. And then I thought about it, and I went, why are they coming here with guns, with bayonets and helicopters, when all they had to do was just come unarmed, we're peace and love, we would have talked to them gladly. So when Random House contacted me and said, would you come to New York City and do a publicity tour for Living on the Earth, I thought, yeah, well, you know, at least then people will see what a hippie really looks like, and they'll know that we're just peace and love.
Isn't that hilarious that I queued it up to the same story?
It's funny.
So
a little more detail, though.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So, do you want me to go back to the song, push it a little bit more forward, or do you want me to stop?
Well, it really is a pivotal place in the story and in my life, you know. My God, there's Joe Dolce. Joe Dolce.
Hi there, Alicia. Whoops, might be muted here.
No, we can hear you.
Oh, good. I got one screen here where I'm beating on some photos of Lynn from when she was a teenager online, and I'm here with you too. So I got to keep my brain in two places. This is thank you.
Joe Dolce was somebody that I met while I was still living on the communes. He lived at Star Mountain, which was a commune that I kind of started with the money from the book. And then I moved on and I went to Maui, and lo and behold, he showed up on Maui and he was there too. And he's like this brilliant singer-songwriter, amazing poet, amazing chef. And if you're his friend online, you constantly get to see pictures of his food. And I'm a vegetarian, and I still salivate when I look at the pictures of Joe's food, because he's a poet with food as well as a poet with words.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you. You know, I'm on a 4-day fast at the moment, juice fast.
Whoa.
So I'm I got my old champion. I showed you my champion, right? That champion juicer.
Yeah.
I'm going back to the old Maui days when we used to just eat fruit and vegetables, but it's just a sort of cleansing thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So good luck with this. This is great. I really enjoyed the little excerpt that I was able to see online. I haven't seen the whole thing yet, but looking forward to it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you would have felt right at home in that audience. It was full of people who, well, it was in Sonoma County, it was in Santa Rosa, this particular performance. Yeah. So
right next to a train track, huh?
Right next to a train track. There was an urban train in Santa Rosa, and that theater was one of its stops. So a couple times during the movie, the train just comes roaring right through, and but Ramón Sender, of course, was there because he was part of the show. And Delia's daughter, Amanda Timbermoon, was there. And Corinne was there. And David Hatch. I don't know, did you meet David Hatch?
I met, it was a great. It was so wonderful. There's great people,
Yeah. Well, anyway.
It was a long time ago, wasn't it?
David Hatch was a guy that I lived with at Wheeler's, and there's a picture of us sitting in front of this little Quonset hut that I was living in then, and he's as tall or possibly taller than Joe. So it was another one of those gigantic people that I somehow ended up with, and he had been a coder, a programmer from when computers took up an entire warehouse. And the guys walked around in white lab coats.
Yeah,
he was one of those guys, and he was a fun companion. He had good stories, and he was a good chess player. Anyway, he came to that thing, and there's a photograph of him and Corinne and me and Ramón out in the lobby of this theater after the thing was over. It was nice.
Someone you know.
Hello.
Oh my God, it's Lynn.
Hi, darling.
Mwah.
Mwah.
So Lynn Van Heck is my darling artist, a writer, musician, performer, all things to all things in the arts. And she's a clothing designer. I have some of her clothes, and she's been with Joe for like since forever.
Years.
Yes. Anyway, they're in Melbourne, Australia. It's the morning there, and I'm so happy to see them. I haven't seen them in the longest time.
We had an earthquake yesterday, 0.6 on the Richter scale.
Yikes! You never have earthquakes there.
The whole house is shaking. It's really amazing.
Wow.
Scary.
We've had everything, violent protests, you name it.
It's like Berkeley. It's like Berkeley, and we hope it won't be like Kent State.
Wow.
Two houses burnt down in the bushfires,
But you know, that the best earthquake that I ever experienced was in Maui when I was sitting on one of those outdoor toilets. I think it was at one of those, I think it was Paradise John's commune, and suddenly the earth's shaking, and I'm sitting on this mound out there on thinking I'm going to be compost in a few seconds. Wasn't that exciting. It was just a little shake.
Lynn and Joe went on tour with me in Japan in 2009. And we played at this beach, was called the Happy Flower Beach Party, and it was a beachfront music festival, except that a hurricane, a typhoon came. It was the Happy Typhoon Beach Party, and so we were all jammed inside together, and everybody else got swine flu except these two. They were like,
oh yeah, I didn't know that.
Oh, that's true.
Wow.
It's true. A lot of people got swine flu from that, being cooped up together at that thing. But I mean, I couldn't believe it. There was this one performance that Lynn did where she was singing something, and this guy who'd been drinking straight out of a bottle handed her the bottle, and she took the bottle on stage and she bottoms up drank right out of that bottle, right from this guy's mouth. And I thought, my God, she's going to get sick. But no, it was full of a whiskey or something that killed all the bugs.
Gosh,
I don't think we do that now, do we? We'll pass on that.
No.
The good old days.
And my dear friend, Sachi Ho, who was the co-founder of the festival with her late husband, you know, she was going to charge these guys to stay at her house after the festival. And then after we got there and she had seen them perform, she said, oh no, I'm not charging them. I see what they can do. I'm not charging them anything.
Oh,
I didn't know that. That's nice.
That they were blown away.
we had a wonderful time. Very memorable.
Yeah, I miss it. Okinawa was great too. God.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was Okinawa for sure.
Oh, that's right. And then we went to that weird rock and roll club in Tokyo.
Yes,
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
In Tokyo, in Umejima, Tokyo. Yeah, it was a Grateful Dead club called Yukotopia, because the owner of it was Yuko. And Yuko had inherited that space from her father. It had been a butcher shop before. And her older brother tried to start a restaurant there and it didn't work. And Yuko said, okay, I'm making a Grateful Dead nightclub. And to her mother's astonishment, her mother had a bar upstairs, a karaoke bar upstairs. Her mother was like a bar mama, you know, a special kind of Japanese lady. But anyway, so Yuko's place was a big success for years and years. People came there to hear Grateful Dead music, and Yuko's husband had a band called Hazama that played Grateful Dead covers, and got terribly lost trying to get Joe and Lynn back to Lynn's son's house, where in the suburbs of Tokyo. Spent hours and hours driving around trying to figure out where to take them.
Yeah, that was great. Forgot about that.
We learned Tokyo that trip.
We've had so many adventures with you. I came over there. We did the tour that ended up doing the for the Living on the Earth Morning Star thing. That was fantastic. And then Lynn came over and she
did the Arizona.
We did the Arizona thing, and then
she was at Max's birthday party. Joe has never forgotten how wonderful she was at Max's birthday party to Max. Oh. Yes, we have had many adventures together over the years, in spite of the fact that we're continents apart, oceans apart.
We still reach out.
Yes, we still reach out.
Isn't it great too that this perennial flower of your book is just, it's great when you create what I call a perennial. They just come to life every year or so, like the Rose of Jericho. It seems like it's dead, and then put some water in it, and it's not only there.
Lo and behold, there are these kids that are in their teens and 20s that want this book. So here it is again.
That's kind of what happened to me. That's kind of how I inherited the book. Is in my early 20s, I started getting into making salves and just learning more about my mom too, and what her knowledge. And she said, well, everything I learned, I learned in this book. And then when I got married and moved out, that's one of the things that she gave me. So I keep that book in a very easy to get to place, and it's on my list of things that, when the shit hits the fan, that's one of the things I'm grabbing.
Yay.
We are on an art auction right next to you, because there's two art photographs of me taken 50 years ago when I was 16. Right, nudes. And my daughter alerted me, they're being auctioned at this art auction, and so we want to get them, right? Because they're 50 years old, and by a really famous Australian photographer. So we're waiting for it to come up so that we can bid. So if you see us sort of going like this,
if we start going like this, we're trying to outbid somebody. But anyway, it's good we can do them both at the same time. This is great. I'm glad we could see you again.
Yeah.
Yes, it's wonderful.
So Marvell, you must have gotten a copy of Living on the Earth when it very first came out, because you have a first edition from like 1970.
Wow.
I did, and that's the book I gave to Jessica.
Wow.
I just discovered when I had to do some major cleaning that I think I have every book of yours.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Which was delightful to find. I did not think I had the color book, but sure enough, I had all of them. They were just tucked away. Jesse's got it.
Oh, wait.
Oh, see, I had started to color it, but I never finished. I got busy with my firstborn, and that never happened. It didn't get finished.
Oh, there's some great guitars on your wall there.
Oh, those are ukuleles. Ukuleles.
Oh, wow. Aren't they beautiful?
Thank you. My husband plays. He's very musical.
This is my mom's book. I don't know.
Ooh, look at the color.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Did you color that in?
Yes, that's, oh, Joe, I was saying I started to color it, but then I became a mom. Oh, this.
And that's my dad, and that's her. Oh. That's exactly what they look like too.
When we were younger, yes, he had coal black hair, and he's always had long hair and a beard. He still has long hair and a beard. And I had very long hair. And when I saw that picture, and he's an amateur astronomer. So there we are looking at the stars wrapped up in a sleeping bag. It was awesome. When I saw that, it reminded us of us totally. I love your books, Alicia.
Thank you.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you.
And it even has the additional insert, like an editorial correction, right?
Oh yeah, that first edition, right? That was actually who would remember it. Maybe would be Felicia, because she was there when I made a goof on the page with the glazes, the ceramic glazes, and so did you print that?
I didn't. I was running another offset printer there, but I connected with you because I was one of the original founders of Morningstar Ranch. So I was the first guest. And there was Ramón and Joni and of course Lou. And so, you know, that all of this is very familiar to me. And it was so amazing to see that book, you know, and to see it now, really, to remember the feeling of those times.
Yeah.
You know? And aside from being hunted by the police, which was kind of a drag, you know, there was still a lot of sunlight and openness and wondrous things. And that's what you've captured in your book, is all of that, you know?
The good magic.
The good magic.
Yeah. I sort of put some of the Fooey magic in the movie, because the thing is that you need some adversity to make the story go.
They were wonderful stories. I was totally mesmerized and shocked at how young you and wild. And trying to compare that to nowadays, if a 15-year-old girl or so would be able to get away with that now, I'm not too sure they would. Lost now.
Well, hitchhiking is not as safe as it was then.
No, it's not. No, absolutely.
They've got their own world, though. They got their own world of taking risks that they don't tell us about. Trust me.
Yeah.
There's just as secretive as we were.
Right, these two raised some kids and grandkids.
Yeah.
And I had a question about the actual production of the book. You said that you wrote it in a lined book that you went around asking everybody and collecting it. Did you draw the pictures like in pencil first and then go back and draw everything again in ink? What's your artistic process for creating your illustrations?
Well, when I was working on Living on the Earth originally at the commune, I had two notebooks. One of them was just like a school loose leaf notebook with lined paper. And so that's when I interviewed people and I would just write things down. And then I had also spiral bound drawing paper that was also 8.5 by 11 inches. And I had a Kohinoor rapidograph, which was a kind of a good pen to have if you're on a commune, because you can't go out and get more drawing pens. at the store. You have to be able to clean them and refill them and stuff. So I had India ink, and I had this refillable pen, and I had this nice paper, good quality paper, because with a rapidograph, you really can't draw on, rough paper. It just doesn't work. And so at first I was just doing drawings and I was interviewing people. And then when I finally had all of the information I thought I could possibly use, then I started making pages. And in some cases, I took pictures I had already drawn in the past year, like the cover of the book. The cover of the book was just a picture that I drew one day when I was stoned, of course. What else could it possibly have been? And but I looked at it and I said, this one's the cover of the book. And and there are some pages in there that I just thought were fun, like the one where it's a roadside and there's a pasture and there's a fence and there's some very roughly drawn cows and the word moo next to a couple of them, and I just stuck that in there because just for ambiance, And then there were other ones that I did very specifically, like when I got the Ball Canning Jar Company's cookbook, their guide to canning, which I used as my guide to put that in there because I didn't want anybody to get botulism, and so I carefully read it and and then tried to figure out where I could fit the words in and make the drawings like the canning process, because I had canned, so I knew what it looked like, but I'd never canned with a mirror in front of me. So I had to think about that. So some of them were very, very intentional. And some of them were just like pictures I'd drawn and I thought, well, I'll use that for this. And so it was a kind of a improvisational process, like.
So, but no pencil ahead of time, no sketching ahead of time, just ink drawing.
No, I pretty much trust myself to draw. Although now that I have Photoshop, if I don't like the way one line comes out, I'll just change it in Photoshop, which is cheating, I guess. But
I think it's taking advantage of the technology that's available to you.
Yeah. Well, it has allowed me to really get into doing commissioned work, like different companies, especially in Japan, they want a drawing of something for some product that they're doing. I can do, a bunch of drawings and then show them and they'll say, oh, this one, or could you make this one a little different? And I can.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I had an idea. When I saw you at that hand-colored cover, I was thinking you should do a promotion in schools with kids and get them all to compete to see who can come up with the most creative hand-colored cover.
That would be interesting.
And then get it.
Yes, right. I mean, it would have to be a very special school that allows pictures of smiling nudes.
Yeah, I mean,
from the book. I mean, even when I went to San Francisco State College and I took, 20th century art history, none of the nudes were smiling. There were like all of these early modernist nudes like Matisse's and Picasso's, but nobody was smiling. You had to be serious if you were going to take your clothes off. And my naked people tend to just have a nonchalant expression or sometimes an outright grin. It's like it's because that's the way we looked I was drawing what I saw at Wheeler Ranch. But the other thing about Wheeler Ranch is that I didn't have an issue about nudity because my mother was a classically trained sculptor and painter and went many times to Europe to look at those non-smiling nudes. And then she made them at home too. And so when she wanted a model and not pay, she would draft me and she'd say, sit there and don't move. And I'd sit there and not move, or I'd stand there and not move. And also she wasn't really uptight about me walking into her and my father's room when they didn't have their clothes on. They didn't, because it would have been hypocritical. Here she was making all of these nude statues and nude paintings. And so if I just walked in there and they were nude, they didn't, giggle and cover themselves up. It was just like as if they were, it was just a normal day when they just had normal clothes on. So when I got to Wheeler Ranch and people were mostly not wearing clothes when the weather was warm, I just thought, yeah, how nice, it's just that I felt like I was right at home. But later people looked at my books and said, well, why did you have to draw everybody naked? Or why did you draw most of the people naked? And it didn't even occur to me that I should put clothes on them. And I had publishers later that said, well, could you do a book that has people with clothes? And
it defeats the purpose.
They never get it.
With clothes on here. There's tons of people with clothes on. I've already counted 10.
Yeah, there are some. There are definitely some people with clothes on. Definitely the guy who's smoking fish. The girl that's definitely making bread.
You want to have clothes on for. So are the people in these book people from the ranch?
Some of them. Some of them kind of look like some of the people. I got more into that kind of a more portrait thing with Being of the Sun. I drew some people that looked like people that I knew. But mostly I didn't really want to be bound by that, like my mother was like always so carefully trying to portray somebody, whereas I just wanted to allow my inner muse to just go wherever she wanted to go.
Right.
Oh my God. Hello, Deborah and Keith. Welcome.
Thank you. Yes.
We got here a little late, so.
Well, we're happy that you're joining us.
Absolutely. It's wonderful. Saw the movie. It's great.
Yeah.
Good
you
stories.
did? Okay. Well, great. Thank you.
Yeah. They sounded real similar.
Well, you know what's similar about the movie and the book was that in both cases, it was not something that I planned to do. And it was something that I did with no money at all. I mean, the whole time that I was writing Living on the Earth, I was homeless and broke and just basically living wherever I could find a place to stay, that somebody would let me stay. And with this movie, it was like I was doing three of these performances in a period of about a month after I had come back from Japan in 2016. And I just happened to plan my performance in Santa Rosa right at the same time that this filmmaker was making a documentary about Ramón Sender. So I walk in and there's a guy with a whole professional camera set up and an assistant with a second camera and all these microphones and everything. And it's like, so I go up to him and I say, well, what would you charge to document my performance so I can, have that to save? And he said, well, actually, I would like to trade it for sync licenses for a few of your songs to be in the movie that I'm making.
Wow.
And I said, sure. So, so Luis Olano is his name. Super, super nice, very young Spanish guy. Interesting. I mean, he's like his grandfather is from Galicia, which is the part of Spain that was settled by Gaelic people. And his grandfather was also a communist. There he is. There's the tall blonde guy. That's Luis Olano. He's really half Russian and half Spanish, and his assistant is clearly all Spanish. But anyway, Luis and I became very good friends, and I ended up as a gift editing the English subtitles for his movie. And then as a gift, he edited this movie for me, and he made the trailer with me. So he's a doll, you know. He's about the age that a grandson would be if I'd had one. And so I feel like he's family, and I'm always happy to see him when I go to Madrid. But yeah, so in other words, both Living on the Earth and Living on the Earth, the musical, were kind of put together from just whatever happened to be on hand at that moment. Both of them were sort of improvisational projects with no money. So there's something special about that. That's how Ramón and I looked when we were young. Here we are, we're like 1973. And there's another picture of us on stage in the movie. Yeah. And we have the exact same facial expressions and the exact same body positions. Yes, as we're playing our instruments. Yeah, there we are. And I'm wearing this costume that was designed by this woman that I collaborate with in Japan named Kaoriko Ago Wada. She made this fabric that's printed with the pages of Living on the Earth. And so I'm wearing a skirt that's made out of that fabric and a shawl that's made out of that fabric. And this is another one of her outfits. Because I did a lot of work with her where I wore her clothes and played at her fashion shows. And so this was an example of her wonderful patchwork clothes that were made all of organic fabrics and made all at fair trade factories and farms in India. So she bought all of her cloth from organic farmers, organic cotton farmers, organic hemp farmers, and then she would pay the weavers well, and she would pay the factory tailors well to make these beautiful clothes. And they were very expensive in the stores, but she made sure that everything was sourced very fairly. So anyway, that's what that dress is. It's a sort of a one-piece asymmetrical dress with a skirt under it and this shawl.
Yeah, she has a website and you can see some of her designs also on Pinterest too.
Yes. Yes. Her company is called Little Eagle.
And I have the Living on the Earth 50th anniversary video that I could pull up as well.
Oh, nice. Can you make the sound a little louder?
That's all I've got. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Is that any better?
I think so.
nothing soft against the side of the stop, ever flowing onward, onward, ever flowing. Find me in the mountain meadows if I go anymore. I'm smiling on the valley, onward, 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 flows the water, quiet sounds like the light, nothing soft against the side of the stop, ever flowing onward, onward, ever flowing. Sunshine humming on the mountains, and down the mountain slow, river running in the valley, onward, onward, and flow. Rocks are stiff against the water, never let their softness show, soon I'll walking down to the sand dunes, onward, onward. Onward, onward flows the water, quiet sounds and light below. Nothing soft against the earth side, never stopping, ever flowing onward, onward, ever flowing.
Can you guys hear me? Good?
Yes.
Okay. Good. All right. Well, are there any other questions?
Well, one of the things that happens in the trailer for the movie is where I confront the biggest publishing house in the world, Random House, on wanting to change the cover of my book. I was outraged that they would want to do that. And as you could see in the trailer, I won. And I just wanted to let you know that actually I just went through more or less the same thing with my little tiny publisher that just put out this edition, the 50th anniversary one, because they decided that without telling me, they were going to put out a hardcover edition. And there was this guy who was like the production manager, and he really didn't like having this woman coming in and telling him what to do. You know, this woman who thinks she's a book designer and telling him how he should do things. Because I really wrote his ass on these other two books. I mean, every tiny little thing had to be just right. So he thought it would be a lot better if he put out that hardcover book without telling me that it was going to happen. So he did that. He made what's called the case wrap, which is this kind of piece of cloth that gets wrapped around the cardboard covers of the book and glued down. And then there are these end papers that are glued over it that hold it all in place. And so he made the case wrap, and when I saw it, I flipped out, and I'm going to show you. Oh. Okay. So first of all, look where he put the barcode. He put the barcode right over my couple, who were really the focus of the entire back cover, the main figure drawing of the entire back cover. But then on the front cover, okay, on the front cover, he gave me a dog with elephantiasis.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so I screamed and yelled until they pulled that one off the press. They said, okay, we're not going to sell this book. And I said, it would have been so much simpler if you just sent me the dimensions of the case wrap, and I would have readjusted the paperback design to fit in that particular graphic environment, and it would have been fine. And I would have called up Karen Sagawa, and she would have advised me every step of the way so that it came out right. But instead, this goofy guy decided that he was going to do it without me, and oh boy, you know. Anyway.
So when will the books be ready then?
Okay, so Living on the Earth is already, it got printed, it got released in February. It was supposed to come out for Christmas. It came out in February. So it's out for this Christmas. And this one, he told me in May that it would be ready in July. Then he told me in July it would be ready in August. Then he told me in August it would be September, and he just told me it'll be October. So I don't know what to think about this one, but it's at the printer, and they have a perfect excuse, which is that there are supply line problems, right? So maybe they don't have enough paper. I don't know. I thought the United States made its own paper, and it's being printed in Pennsylvania, and it only has to go from Pennsylvania to Wisconsin to be in the warehouse. But anyway, whatever it is, I think that the guy had his revenge on me for pulling his terrible book cover out of print.
Ego.
For being a brilliant woman. Right? The original sin.
The original sin, being a woman and wanting everything your way. I don't want everything my way. I just want everything in my books to be in my way, because I'm the artist, and I would be the same way if I was a guy. You know, I think if you make a piece of art, you should have some sovereignty over it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just for the fun of it, I went on to Amazon and pulled up Living on Earth Illustrated 1988, May 3rd. They have a version, the hardcover version, which was published in January 1st, 1835, with your for only $768.
That's great.
It probably won't focus. No,
Send the money.
Right.
Send the money.
Seriously.
Send the money. Send the money. Yeah, Amazon is goofy.
5-year-old. Oh,
yeah,
no, published by
Amazon
Gibbs Smith.
Oh yeah. Well, Gibbs Smith published the 4th edition.
Oh yeah. Well, Gibbs
right
Smith
in 2003.
4th edition. Right in 2003.
Not 1835, huh? Okay.
No.
Alicia, I do have a question for you.
Yes.
I do have a question for you. Or any of the subsequent products from the book been ripped off and available on eBay or another format or cheaper price?
Are you saying this has happened, or what if this happens? Are you saying this has happened, or what if this happens?
Wow, we have a bad delay.
Yes.
Wow, we have a bad delay. No, yes. I know for a fact that this has happened to several of my friends who have produced tarot books. Produced tarot books. Tarot decks and an accompanying book, and I was wondering if that had happened to you. And an accompanying book, and I was wondering if that had happened to you.
Not so far.
Good.
Not that I know of, anyway. Not that I know of, anyway.
Alicia has other challenges like Facebook Marketplace and Spotify and getting all the different.
Yeah, I've had my
and agencies working together.
Yeah, I've had my music's been ripped off a lot. My music's been ripped off a lot.
Oh. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, well, okay, so Google owns YouTube. Well, okay, so Google owns YouTube. And YouTube has a library for anybody making a video and making a video. YouTube put all of my recorded songs in that library without paying me anything. All of my recorded songs in that library without paying me anything. Because they're the 900-pound gorilla and they can do that.
That's a tough battle there.
Well, we can't run away to communes. Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We've got to figure out something new we can do, because
Yes.
I've just about had it with having my life ruined by computers and by this whole system and Google and Facebook and HarperCollins. I've had it.
Yeah.
And it just occurs to me, if anyone's going to figure out a way to struggle and resist this, it would be this group.
Yes.
That's,
yes.
Because it's infuriating.
It is. It is. Well, I mean, here's what I think about computers is that at least it makes it possible for an artist to control the reproduction of their own work without having a publisher.
Yes.
I mean, I put out all my albums without a record company. I made my movie without a movie company. And I feel like I'm about to move on to putting out my books without a book publisher.
Mm-hmm.
Because these things that used to require big money to produce now can be done on a laptop.
Right. Yeah.
They'll still find a way to make money off of it, unfortunately. But it is a lot easier to be independent.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Did you want me to share any more images that we've passed between the two of us, or another section of the movie, or maybe you wanted to read one of the reviews?
I think what I would like to do is I would like to tell everybody how I met Deborah Hall, who is sitting there with her boyfriend Keith, because it's an interesting story, I think. Basically, 10 years ago was the Occupy movement, right? Mm-hmm. And I was excited by Occupy. and I joined Occupy Writers. And I wrote about the things that I had done in my life that were sort of like Occupy. And one of the things that I talked about was being part of labor Zionist youth as a young teenager and going to anti-Vietnam War marches. And then I talked about being in 12-step program, because that was a sort of an ad hoc way to improve society that happened in the 80s and 90s a lot. And of course, being in a hippie commune. And so along comes an email from Deborah Hall, who says, wow, I was in Habonim. I was at Wheeler Ranch. I was in 12-step program. She was like in all of these, she'd done all the same things I'd done, and we'd never met until that moment. So we became friends. So now we've been friends for at least 10 years and had wonderful in-person visits. And it's kind of like the experience of having met Felicia. You know, it's like, well, why didn't we meet a long time before? Because our life paths were interweaving for decades, you know. So I just wanted everybody to know who Deborah Hall was in my life. And what an important friend she is too.
I've known of you for years, and yet we didn't connect until 10 years ago. But I came to Wheeler's on the edge of that 3-day party, and when I got there, people were talking about this 3-day party that had been, I mean, and I was like, shucks, I missed that one. And you guys had just moved to Star Mountain. So we sort of intertwined, but we didn't. It was, you know, until now.
And then you went on living at Wheeler's for a chunk of time after that.
Yeah, I was at Wheeler's for another 1.5 years, but we never, I probably walked on Star Mountain and you were probably there. I mean.
I was only at Star Mountain very briefly.
Oh, okay. Because they threw a big party there and everybody went from Wheeler over to Star Mountain. And there, I thought the band was playing, but maybe, I don't know. But you know, from what I gathered, you guys went, the band moved. All the great music went from Wheeler Ranch over to Star Mountain. That's how I remember it. But I don't know.
The story sort of went like this, you know, there were a bunch of us playing music together. And a couple of us wanted an electric band. So I said to Bill Wheeler, I want to rent a house that has electricity so that those of us who are in this band could get together and we could practice playing electric guitars together and electric bass. And I was going to be the bass player. And Bill Wheeler announced, to my complete surprise, I own a piece of land right next to Wheeler Ranch, and I've never told anyone about it, but there's a house there with electricity, and I would lease it to you. Oh. And so I leased it from him for 1 year. So I went over there with the other woman singer in the band, Sunny Saplee, who for a while was a girlfriend of Joe Dolce, who was here before. Anyway, so Sunny and I cleaned the house, and then like the next day, I went to New York City, and I was on tour for a couple of months. And so I wasn't there, and I came back to Star Mountain, and there were 40 people there. And I had rented a house for a 5-person rock band to practice, and all of a sudden there was a commune there. and all I wanted to do was like go into a bedroom, unpack my suitcase, lie down on a floor mattress and go to sleep. But there were none, because all of the sleeping spaces in the entire place, both the ones that had existed before and the ones that were built while I was gone, were all occupied. And so there was nothing, there was nowhere for me to go. And so then the next day, one of the people in the band said, "Oh, by the way, your bass and your amp, Sonny's van was stolen while we were in the city, and so they got whoever stole the van got your bass and your amp." And I said, "Why were my bass and my amp in Sonny's van?" And then they said, "Oh, by the way, here's the electric bill you haven't paid for a couple months." And so I sort of sat there and I went, no place to sleep. My instruments probably got hocked to buy some pot, and I have to pay the electric bill. Screw all of you. And so I picked up my suitcase and I stomped out of there, and I didn't come back for a long time. I never lived there. And but it went on to become a commune. What happened was this guy, Alan Riback, otherwise known as Moses Moon, decided to buy it from Bill Wheeler. He was a rich guy, and he did buy it, and he, it was his commune. He didn't like me, so I wasn't allowed there. And then after he died, his daughter inherited it, and we like each other a lot. Her name is Amanda Timbermoon, and she's great. She's a school teacher and has a happy marriage and a couple of great kids. And I see her on Facebook all the time. So that's the happy ending of Star Mountain. She's there. But there was something star-crossed about me and Star Mountain. I just was not kind of allowed to be there. Except to clean it, except to clean the toilets.
Wow.
That was the downside of communes.
Yes.
I founded about 3.
Yes.
Morning Star Ranch is one, and then I went to one in the Fillmore. But I remember with Morning Star, I met a guy named Nevada. Some people brought him in. He'd been living under the pier. And he could, that card trick where you take a row of cards and you go like this and ripple. He could do that with his feet, with his boots on. His name was Nevada, and he had a Bowie knife. And when we moved him very carefully to Morning Star Ranch. It was not thoughtful of me, but I was 17. And I couldn't have him in the commune in town in San Francisco, so I had to do something with him. And
that's how he got there.
That's how we got there. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, but he went there and he started catching fish with his hands and doing other things that were less entertaining. So who said that's how he got there? Did you know him?
Well, yeah, because he was one of who Lou Gottlieb referred to as the impossibles.
He was. Yes. He was the first impossible.
Yes. Yes. And he did eventually come to Wheeler.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But see, he had friends at Wheeler.
Nevada.
He was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And so there was a whole tribe of alcoholic homeless guys that lived at the front gate of Wheeler.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, you know, and I think I let the Hells Angels go.
The Hells Angels go
to Morning Star. I forgot why.
I forgot why.
But when I hitched back and went to my room, someone had taken like my beautiful embroidered Chinese pajamas and sliced them open at the ankles and the cuffs so their big hairy male arms could fit.
Wow.
And I looked, you know, I was into like cleaning house. Most of the communes I started also is because I cleaned them and organized cooking and things. And yeah, I looked around at what was left of Morning Star after Nevada and the Angels and thought, well, I guess I'm moving to town. Stuck my thumb out and went to town. But wasn't that the magical part, that you could get up in the morning and anything could happen that day? You could meet anyone in the world. You could hitch and go anywhere. I liked that part.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. No, I mean, Lou Gottlieb said, a hippie is someone whose calendar is blank for the foreseeable future.
Yes. He used to get up in the morning and he'd sing, "Pranayama Mama, here I come." And he'd be naked and he'd walk through this platform we had where he could do his yoga. And I always I loved Lou, and I loved his playing the piano in the evenings, and he was fun to live with.
Yeah.
You knew Nevada.
Well, I can't say that I knew him. I saw him. I clocked his act, but I did not become his friend.
No, that wasn't really a thing. But we all took acid at 832 Fell Street, where we drug him after we found him under the pier. Because, you know, the water comes in under the pier.
Yes.
So we decided this was not a winning gambit for him to be sleeping there. And so we dragged him and the sand fleas home. And we took acid, and what he did was he said the next day, he said, "Well, are you all coming down?" And we went, and he said, "Look into my eyes." And he zapped us. We were high for another 24 hours.
Wow.
He had his powers. But he was meant for the country. He was like a dog that should be left out in the country.
Yes. Wow. I didn't realize you'd stayed at Morning Star that long.
Mm-hmm. I had nowhere else to be. My parents were MIA. I was 17. And I met someone who said, "Hey, they're going to start this thing at Morning Star Ranch." And I said, "I'm in." So I caught a ride there. And I was like probably the second guest apart from Ramón and Joni and Lou. And so I was number 4 or 5, I think 5. And it was perfect for me. I stayed there all winter. And, you know, I still mourn, as I'm sure you all do too, who were in Northern California. It was so green and so wet that if you washed out your underwear and hung them up to dry, they never did dry. Right? And everything was covered with smog. And one of my first days there, I went wandering and I heard this sound like a giant dinosaur was eating the tops off trees. And followed it, you know, being a hippie, we always went where angels fear to tread. And there in the middle of the field was Ramón Sender with his machine, his synthesizer. And he was sort of like an elf on this huge machine, making this incredible sound, you know? So yeah, it was fun. I stayed there for about, I don't know, 5-6 months before, but I would go to town now and then, and I always shared, and then I shared a little too far, you know, with, I think, wasn't the angels so much, it was, who are the people who were baking bread for free in the
diggers.
Yeah, it was the diggers, because they were making bread in one of the communes I had there, and I said, you know, a groovy place. So they went.
Actually, I knew Peter Coyote when he was a digger and a member of the what was that? What was their theater group that they had?
Oh, the street theater thing.
Yeah. Anyway,
yeah,
I met him there at the Diggers Free Store, and then later he came up for that party, as you'll see in the movie. He brought up his whole commune from Olima to Wheelers, and they sang their communal owl totem chant.
I don't know if anybody else has any follow-up questions or.
Oh, real quick, I just want to introduce my husband, Jessica's daddy.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Good meeting you and seeing you all.
Thank you.
I'm going to leave you all now. What a pleasant evening. Thank you so much, everybody. I enjoyed it tremendously.
Thank you so much for joining.
Enjoy the equinox for the rest of the evening. I'm sure we'll talk later.
All right.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I don't know if you had thought about playing another song to play us out or anything, but that could be a possibility too. Put you on the spot.
Well, I'm going to play you the other 3 seasons. Besides, you've already heard the autumn equinox, and now we're going to go to the winter solstice. Our half of the earth has tipped away from you, and we are on the winter side of the sun. When we are in cold and darkness, we see you in candle flames and fire. We have stored your energy to feed us until the day you warm us through our skin. Our half of the earth has moved away from you, and we are on the winter side of the sun. When we are in cold and darkness, we see you in candle flames and fire. We have stored your energy to feed us until the day you warm us through our skin. Today the darkness gives way to daylight, awakening from winter on the spring side of the sun. How the narrow path of sunlight has widened as our hemisphere reaches turns to the light. Plant we now our gardens, blossom now the love in our souls. Today the darkness gives way to daylight, wakening from winter on the spring side of the sun. How the narrow path of sunlight has widened as our hemisphere returns to the light. Plant we now our garden, blossom now the love in our souls. The summer song has escaped me. I think I'm going to have to stop here.
I think that's beautiful.
Thank you.
I'll always remember your face looking up, filled with light, playing that music for us. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow, nice to see you back, Karen. Hello again.
Hasta la bye-bye.
All right. It's been a wonderful party. Thank you so much. I feel so warm inside from having seen each and every one of you. It's just been delightful. Yay. Yay. I can't hear you, Jessica.
It's so good to meet everyone else too.
Too. I'm recording this, so it will be available for rewatching. So.
All right.
Hope everybody gets to watch the movie and picks up a copy of the book. And is there one more final thing that you wanted to mention about the inscription inside of the book?
Oh yeah. If you buy one of these books from the online store, and you would like to have it inscribed, I can't inscribe your book, obviously, but I can make an inscription. I can scan it. I can put it in Photoshop and make it the colors of the paper and the colors of the ink, because Karen Sagawa taught me how to do that.
And it's great. It's perfect. It looks exactly like the book. I have one.
And so then I could send it to you by email, and you can print it and you can put it in your book opposite the title page. And if you should lose it or it gets damaged, you still have the file and you can always print another one. So that's the story of the virtual book signing.
Cool.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
A digital way.
I hope everybody has a wonderful evening.
Let's all put our hands to the screen and touch. Yeah. There it is.
Hey.
Yeah, thank you so much for putting it all together. So.
Thank you. I just love that you came to this.
Yeah, no problem. Happy. I was just like driving really quick. I was like, I hope I make it in time.
You did. You did. I mean, this last year and a half of working with you has been so incredibly special and so much growth for me as an artist. And I love your artwork too. I mean, that beautiful mural that you painted at the shopping center was incredible.
Thank you.
Weird.
All right.
Gotta run.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, and thank you. It's just been wonderful, and I'm so happy to see you all again. Love you, Deborah and Keith.
Say hello to
And
Joe.
love you,
Thanks.
Jessica.
Love you too.
All right. Bye-bye.
And then I heard through my agent that they were going to change the cover. This is the original cover of Living on the Earth. Because of the right? This is something that I blew up from a scan of the Random House catalog for 2000. Now, of course, first thing you notice is there's no crotch hair. They cut off her twat. But look at her breasts. They got the graphic artist to redraw her breasts. Now, the thing about these breasts is that they are anatomically incorrect, and I will prove this to you. If you put your arms out to your side, and then you lean back so far that somebody can only see your chin and the tip of your nose, your tits go up, up, not down. So I'm standing there in the office of my editor at Random House, Courtney Hodel, along with this graphic artist that had created this masterpiece. And I said, "Why this?" And they said, "Well, we thought it needed color. They were going to make this orange with green lines, kind of like a frog from the Amazon." And I said, "If you wanted to do it in color, why don't you have me color it in? I'm the artist that made that." And just at that moment, in walked the creative director of that section of Random House, and she said, "We're keeping the original cover." And I said, "What a great idea. Let's do it her way."